I wanted to dream great dreams and have the courage to go after them. And what I didn't know was that in the process of going after those things, that it would lead me to a point where I get to question a lot of the things that I had just kind of assumed in my life. And a part of it is that some of those things I had unintentionally built a part of who I saw myself as upon. I had almost made it a part of my identity. And a part of that is like, I, for almost a little over 5 years, was vegan, and there's still a lot of those things that I'm just kind of working through and going, do I want to be that? Do I not? There are some validity in parts of that, and some that's not. And so that was something that was really sure that I'm not as sure of. I was really consistently and actively building a business with a network marketing called Arbonne, and although I still really love the products and use the products on a daily basis, I'm not actively building a business at this moment. And that was something that I was also really sure of. I was working at a church, Vintage Grace, which I loved, and I'm not doing that, and that's of my own choice. And it's a cool thing, but also something that I didn't really expect in the process of going to Ecuador and coming back to be in this place where so many of the things that I just took for granted, that were just so normal, so everyday, so routine, that I didn't question them. They were just a part of my life. I was really grateful for them, even in the moments. And then, like, now, they aren't a part of my life on a daily basis. And I had this moment where I kind of realized that if I was reading the story of my life, I would be so excited about what was about to happen next. I'm reading through Harry Potter right now, and there is this moment where, I guess this is a spoiler alert, so if you've never read or watched any of the Harry Potter movies, specifically the fourth one, spoilers incoming. But Harry's facing this dragon for this tournament, and there's like so much tension and so much unknown, and this like massive challenge that he's too young compared to all the other competitors in that environment, and then also, like, and because of that, he doesn't have as much experience, and then he also is in conflict with Ron, one of his good friends, so he doesn't have that like support that he normally would have going into a stressful place in his life. And what was fascinating is when I was reading that, I was so excited to read the next chapter of that book, because I have a high level of trust in J.K. Rowling, in the author of the book, that what's going to happen next will be for his good. And because of that, I'm actually really excited to read what's next. And there's a part of me that kind of realized that with all the unknowns that I'm in the midst of taking the next right steps that I do see in front of me, that if my life were a story, I would be so excited to read the next chapter, to find out what happens next in my life. And in that process and in that questioning, it actually allows me to be grateful for the questioning, even though that's sometimes a challenge to ping pong back and forth between being unsure and uncertain about that, to then going like, actually, I'm grateful for this uncertainty and what it will produce in my life. And so that's been something that has been helpful in in reading through that, and it also made me realize that like the author in my life is God. And what this allows me to do is continue to remind myself of what is the truth about me in my identity, who God says I am, and truth that I can remind myself of, that I have everything I need to live a godly life, that I don't have to allow anyone to look down on me because of my age. Instead, I can set an example for believers in my faith, my love, my speech, my conduct, and my purity, that I'm a chosen priesthood, a royal nation, or a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. I've been called out of darkness and into his marvelous light, that I can have the mind of Christ. And it's one of the things that I feel like this period of time, what I'm almost dubbing like the Ecuador fallout, is there's this breaking apart of what used to be normal and what I could place value in, to being able to really reroot and replant, or continue to plant seeds of who I truly am during this time. And that's been really cool. And really hard at the same time. And I think that's easy, even in my mind, to make those an either or, and either it's one or the other. And from my current perspective, it's both. It's a both and, that both of those things can exist at the same time in tension. And something else that kind of is in alignment with that is that I'm learning to enjoy discomfort and what was the other thing? Discomfort and the unknown. And a part of that is intentionally finding ways to do things that I already need to do, but find a slightly different way to do them, so that way I am a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I am intentionally putting myself into a place of discomfort. And so an example of that is I've been writing with my left hand for the last almost month and a half now. And in the beginning it was really hard and really terrible. And now it's still slower than my right hand, but it's really not that appreciably harder, which is fascinating. There was also a period of time, a really long time ago, where I learned to tie my shoelaces left over right instead of right over left. And like the initial process of switching something that is so routine, that is so automatic as tying your shoes or writing, and the process to switch, especially when we know that there's a different way to do it that's so much faster, that's so much more efficient, and yet choosing to go through that process to then ultimately have more than one way to do something is really, it's really fun for me. And a part of the reason why I want to do that is because in that process, I then will look at things from a different perspective, and I want to intentionally look for those, what can I do to make it like 2 to 5% harder, but then I get a greater return from that process. And that can also be like just the way that I drive to Sac State or to somewhere else, that instead of going the same way that I've always gone, going a different way. And in that process, I end up seeing different things, or I just end up knowing the area better, or now I understand how annoying using a normal um, notebook with your left hand can be, and the challenges that that is, and just like all the fine details that I really never thought about writing with my right hand. And so that has been really cool. And I think some of the biggest things that I'm learning through this time is that even in this space where I don't know a lot of the things of the future and there's a lot of unknowns, that there's still a like incredible layer of foundational truth and identity of who I am that can't be taken away, even when all the other things that are so easy to put my value in are not there, which they really aren't for me currently. A lot of the things that I would put value in the past just really aren't a part of my life at this current moment. And I think that's also kind of a win to realize that, oh, that is a win. To realize that being able to trust fully in God and take responsibility for the things that I can take the next right step in, like that is the thing that's most important, to be faithful in the now and be okay with that release of control, because there's really only an illusion of control in the past anyway. So I think those are the kind of the main things of the not knowing some of the parts of my identity that I used to be really sure of, that I'm kind of revisiting and going, maybe I do want to be that, maybe I don't, and I'm not sure yet, and that's okay, which is something that's cool. In the past, I think I would have made myself wrong for not knowing, and I think I'm more okay with that now. And not that I don't want to stay here forever, for sure, but being okay with being in the process is important. And then also with that, process those things, choosing to like have space, have stillness, be able to be present, have moments of transition in between things. I didn't realize how much I loved silence until I had been in Ecuador and come back. I didn't, and that's such a wonderful gift. I didn't realize how important it was to have meals with people. That while I was in Ecuador, I had so many more meals in about 2 months than the last 5 years eating with other people. And that's something that even since I've been back, I've been doing a better job of being present in eating meals with people, or with Jeannie and Ruben, or with having lunch with friends, or dinner, and not just, and with family, and not even just like making the food or like sitting down to eat with people, but also being there in the process of making the food. And there's something about having that space, having that margin to be able to enjoy that process with someone, that then getting to actually eat what you have created, or even just watch someone else create, that makes it so much more meaningful, because it's not just like, here's the end product, but you actually got to see the entire process. And I think in some ways that's the reason why I'm choosing to even share this now, because I'm still in the process, and it's not like this is 3 years in the future when some of this stuff makes more sense. It's what I'm in the midst of right now. And And that's a little scary. And it's also really cool because it's a chance to trust the author of my story and take the next right step. It's really, because I can always adjust from there. And so yeah, that's kind of the Ecuador part 3, if you will. There will probably be maybe 2 more pieces of that. I'm gonna go through my journals again, and there will probably be a couple more kind of takeaways from that. But that's kind of the Ecuador fallout being back here in the U.S. And man, I'm really grateful for it because I was there long enough that it became normal to then come back here and have it be less normal, but then still be normal is it's really cool. And I'm a verbal processor, so when you hear me having moments, that's because I'm realizing things sometimes that I hadn't realized until I'm sharing this with you. So thank you very much for listening. I'm really grateful for each and every one of you who choose to engage and listen or watch me on this journey of life. And yeah, I just pray that we would be people who live by faith, are known by love, and are voices of hope, and that we would dream great dreams and have the courage to go after them, even when we don't know what the outcome's going to be. Adios.